welcome to Crosshairs, the weekly show at ThePrint, where we discuss the big national security or regional security issue of the week. It's my honor and pleasure to be joined today by Mr. V. Balachandran. Many of you may have heard of Mr. Balachandran as the author of a recent fantastic book on the history of intelligence, but he's also a career intelligence officer who worked for the Research and Analysis Wing for many, many years, helped India's official inquiry into the 26/11 attacks, and also did many other acts of service for this country, which we shan't be able to discuss here. But I thought today we discuss Canada. Now, in the last few days, as you've heard, Canada's Prime Minister has made some pretty unusual allegations against India, saying there are credible allegations that India's intelligence services carried out the assassination of a Khalistani extremist in that country. I thought I would draw on Mr. Balachandran's knowledge, though, as a historian of intelligence, to talk about many previous episodes where similar allegations have been made by different countries. Many fascinating cases, and as I think we'll see in this discussion, what Prime Minister Trudeau has done is actually pretty unusual in the context of disputes. I thought, sir, that I would take your memory back to the case of Jamal Khashoggi, very, very famous journalist killed allegedly by the Saudi Arabian intelligence services. Can you talk to us a little bit about that case and how Turkey, which brought the allegations, dealt with that matter?
Well, I think, the case of Jamal Khashoggi was well known. In 2017, according to my compilation, he left Saudi Arabia because of certain disputes about his newspaper, Al Watan. And then what happened was that for certain reasons, he had to go to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018, to be precise, on 2nd October 2018. And there it was alleged that instead of giving him the documents or preparing the documents, he was throttled and then murdered, and then the body was chopped into pieces, and then
quite a gruesome killing, sir.
Now the most important thing is that on 2nd of November the same year, President Erdogan, this is very unusual, which I have not observed in any other previous cases. He publicly accused Saudi Arabian government of ordering the killing of, by writing an op-ed in Washington Post, that this is first time perhaps in the history of intelligence activities that a head of state had made an allegation against another government. And then, of course, this is still going on. I don't think it has been closed as yet. USA also took up the case. President Biden said that he will take it up at the highest level. But nothing further was heard about this particular case.
The difference, I think, solicit your opinion on this. In that case, President Erdogan's op-ed, though, came out along with some video footages of Mr. Khashoggi entering the Saudi embassy and coming out, and some audio tape somehow the Turkish had obtained of events inside the embassy were also played. So some evidence was brought to support the president's allegation.
That evidence was brought to support. In fact, that was the one that made President Erdogan make this charge in this op-ed that he could get. Now, indirectly, it could also mean that the consulate was wired by Turkey. Now, this is a thing which indirectly came out of that whole thing. Otherwise, how would they have known what is happening in the consulate. But anyway, whatever it was, that is still not. I mean, it has not reached a logical conclusion. This is what I could understand from the history of that episode.
So, and moving back to a few years before that, sir, I think, as you rightly say, that was the first time a head of state or a head of government brought such allegations. But you had the famous assassination in 2010 of a Hamas leader in Dubai, where again some evidence had been produced that seemed to point fingers at an intelligence service. Could you talk us through that case?
Yeah, in 2010 case has been covered by me at length in my book. The earlier one, what I mentioned, Khashoggi I have not mentioned, but this assassination of Hamas, I believe he was a weapons procurer, Mahmoud al-Mabua, in Dubai on 19 January 2010. Now there, what happened was that there was another attempt earlier in 2009. They had, at that time, they could only poison his drink and he fainted. Now they again came. So here I have examined this purely from the tradecraft and I have faulted the Mossad Caesarea in Dubai. Now what happened is that they use cash for hotel charges. Now this, after 9/11, there was an unwritten a tradecraft, something like that, saying that whoever pays for the hotel charges or airline charges by cash is flagged as a suspect. But they violated this by using cash for the hotel charges. And surprisingly, they use the same Austrian telephones, they procured with Austrian numbers. And thirdly, they use the same fictitious passport for consecutive 4 visits to Dubai. This I had flagged that. And then after the failure in 2009, 27 members from different parts of the world to Dubai. And throughout their arrival at the airport, going to the hotel, and their activities were all captured on the video. So after the murder was over, the Dubai police chief, Khalifan Tamen, he beamed all the films all over the world. That means that when he beamed it on Dubai, it was picked up by the news agencies all over the world. And then it was whether he accused them or not. He also asked for the arrest of the people concerned, including the head of state, which, there is a there is a dispute whether he named the state or he did not. But it was very clear who was being referred to. So,
and in this case, as you point out in your book, sir, the Mossad, which has a very great reputation as a competent professional agency, but made many mistakes which left its paw prints, if you like, on the scene of the crime.
Yeah, that's right. This is, according to my compilation, this was the second big mistake they made. The first was the stabbing or poisoning of Khalid Mashal in Amman, Jordan, where they were immediately caught. And the King Hussein has said that unless you get an antidote to this, we will arrest these people. So that was also a very funny incident in which the so-called very capable, Israeli agency was caught in the act, that earlier one.
I'll come back to mistakes of tradecraft, sir, and pursue that with you towards the end of this interview.
Yeah.
But before this, are there instances where governments had traditionally been very guarded? You had the famous incident in 2006, where the Russian dissident Alexander Litwinenko was given some very mysterious poison, allegedly by Vladimir Putin's intelligence services.
Yeah.
Another famous case which had many twists and turns before the allegation finally led up to Russia's door.
Yes, That is, it's Russian. I mean, he's called dissident, but he was actually an officer of the Russian Federal Security Service, the follower of KGB, FSB, Federal Security Service. Now, he was asked to do certain things against a particular businessman, which he felt was not correct, and he fled. He took asylum in England, and then he started criticizing the president and the Russian government and FSB, etc. So he was reportedly poisoned on 1st November 2006 through polonium-210, and he died on 23rd of November 2006. So what happened is that the UK government instituted an inquiry, and which blamed FSB chief Patrushev and also President Vladimir Putin. Now, interestingly, in September 2021, European Court of Human Rights held that Russia was responsible for his killing and asked for compensation. So this is a thing in which the high-level involvement was proved legally through a commission, as well as by the European Court of Human Rights.
So where lawyers would presumably have presented the evidence in a formal manner, and there would have been some discussion. Some interesting stories we've shared in the past. 1985, French agents caught in the act blowing up a ship belonging to an environmental organization called Greenpeace. Again, flags the dangers of covert operations when your agents can end up in trouble.
Yes, that is a classic case of, I think it is quite foolhardy attempting to do this so far away from the mainland, and then risking everything. This was in 10th July 1985, where French DGSE, Direction General Service Exterior. I mean, that is
their external intelligence service.
Two operatives, they placed explosive in a boat of Greenpeace, or rather Greenpeace ship called Rainbow Warrior. And this particular ship had gone to watch the French nuclear tests of Mururoa Atoll. And so what happened is that they placed explosive in the ship, and when it exploded, a photographer was killed. So the New Zealand took very serious notice of this, and in the beginning, France denied any involvement. But ultimately, when New Zealand arrested two of their agents, consequently, the French Defense Minister, Charles Ernoult, had to resign. And then these two agents pleaded guilty to the manslaughter, and they were sentenced to 10 years in prison. What happened was that after 2 years, for 2 years, they were confined to a Polynesian island and released after 2 years. And the France officially apologized and also compensated Greenpeace moment.
Sir, in a lighter vein, if any of us have to go to jail, I'm sure we would prefer a Polynesian island to Tihar jail or Arthur Road jail, which you are which we are more familiar with. But the last case, sir, I just wanted to invite you to talk about was the Lil Hammer bombing, again, a Mossad case, but where the intelligence agency concerned ended up blowing up an innocent man by mistake.
That is one of the earliest operations of Mossad. What happened is that 1973 Munich Olympics, the Black September massacred, shot about 11 Israeli athletes, and to take action on this, a team was organized and acting on intelligence, which later the Mossad chief said that it was not very reliable. And they went and killed a Moroccan waiter who was in a town called Lil Hammer in Norway.
And this waiter was not connected with any terrorist group.
Was no way connected with that. Maybe it was a false identification. So when he was walking with his wife on July 21, 1973, he was shot. And surprisingly, Norway, during the trial, Norway police arrested some of the Mossad team members, some of them escaped. And they produced even the telephonic conversations of this particular team. But after some time, I think they were let off after a few years. And but the real Ali Hassan Salame, for whom this poor waiter was mistakenly killed, he was killed. Ali Hassan Salame was killed in 1979 in Beirut in a car bomb. So this is another incident which raised a lot of excitement and condemnation, and going all the way to another country. So this is the fifth case I can quote.
So, just drawing on this experience, I mean, we don't know what the Canadian evidence may or may not be, if there is any evidence, what the substance of it is. But looking at these 5 cases, it seems that when governments in the past have criticized the intelligence service of another government or accused it of wrongdoing, generally there seems to have been quite a high benchmark for bringing your evidence to the table. And even in the case of so-called non-state actors like Pakistan, as you'll remember from the 2611 case, quite a high threshold of evidence was asked for before accusations could move forward. Would that be a fair conclusion on my part?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't think this type of high-level allegation. It's a very serious thing, and also throwing out our diplomat. This is unprecedented, and why no indication was given before making, or rather, why no evidence, a piece of at least something could have been mentioned. Okay, this was a wiretap or a surveillance or whatever it is. That could have been revealed, and then the whole thing, the shock would have been much lesser. And also, I think it is very unprecedented that for a head of state to make a statement in a parliament against another country, which he had just visited, and then immediately thereafter asking for expulsion. This is very unusual. At least there should have been some hint. Subsequently, there were some leaks that this was some, interception and technical evidence, all that. But then, rather than making everybody and putting lakhs of people into inconvenience, now many of our people are inconvenienced when, because we are not very sure about the safety of our embassy personnel, consular personnel in Canada. And soon thereafter, read in today's paper, another murder, gang war has taken place. So this gang war is going on the one hand in Canada, and on the other, the head of Canadian government is blaming us, which is very unusual. That's very, I never experienced any such incident.
So one question for you: in the past, in your experience, I'm sure intelligence services on many occasions have had grievances with each other, or misapprehensions about the conduct of the other, or their interests have clashed with each other. In the past, how did governments deal with such matters? Did they always go public, or were there other channels also to solve problems?
Yes. Even in the height of Cold War, you would see that US maintained a link with Moscow through Ambassador Drobnin, who was there for about 26 years. And if not, KGB and CIA contacts were sporadic. It was not very regular. There were some links, etc. But history reveals that in order to see that some certain matters are not escalated to a higher level, there is always a talk, which I think was not carried out sometime later when there was a mass expulsion in Reagan's time, President Reagan's. of people who are working in United Nations and others. At that time, I do not know. Maybe this drop-in link was not used. So that has always been, even with other countries also. First of all, the discrete channel is used to say that why are you people doing this in our country, and then getting the explanation, making remedial measures. If that is that particular officer is quietly withdrawn without any public statement that he is a persona non grata, that was going on. But this particular thing, which has been as I said earlier, immediately after his visit to Delhi for G20, and then he goes there and then makes a statement in the parliament, and then does this persona non grata declaring somebody. This is very unusual. This has not happened so far. That's all I can say.
Last but one question, sir. You served at a very high level in government. Many countries have cultivated or coddled terrorists to use against India or against other countries for various reasons at various times. I mean, Pakistan is only one case Indians talk a lot about, but even the USA at various junctures in its history cultivated terrorists to use in Latin America and elsewhere. Afghanistan, the Soviet Union did it in various other parts of the world. When an intelligence service anywhere in the world becomes involved in these kinds of covert operations and so on, what is the means to deal with these problems? Is the only solution to use your own intelligence services to hammer the other side? Or are there diplomatic and other channels which can also be exercised to try and tamp down the problem?
Using your own secret services to to hit at others is not a very practical thing. As I said, as I mentioned in my book, I listed about 18 covert operations. That is a great thing about America. They list out everything. They have a legal definition of covert operation, and everything is available on paper, whatever they have done.
So a lot of lessons learned from mistakes of the past.
You will find that a study by, I quoted in my book, a study by the certain defense think tanks, saying that in none of that, the major achievement was, or rather the strategic objective of each covert operation could not be achieved. So that is the lesson from USA is a place where you get all this, information. And a major part of my book I quoted only from the United States. So the lesson for nations to settle scores through intelligence agencies is that in none of these things the objectives could be achieved. So why are we doing that? Why are we doing that?
A final question, sir. There's a lot of enthusiasm for covert operation right now. Especially I think people go and see movies and see James Bond jumping out of a plane and shooting someone. But there are real costs to a country's reputation and image when such operations go wrong. Would that be a fair comment?
Absolutely, absolutely. The whole image of the country gets tarnished, saying that normally these things have to be taken up through the diplomatic channel. That is, the diplomacy is there. And we fail to do it and we use some other means. It really is a blot on the country. And I don't think that has succeeded at all. That is the lesson of my study also, that we should have normal diplomatic thing. And whatever the intelligence, I would call it as peaceful intelligence, peaceful through the normal intelligence. Covert operations is a drastic escalation of the powers that we have or our tactics that we have, and you will find that most of it has failed. Nowhere else.
I think the lesson there being, sir, that drastic surgery should only be done when the patient really needs it, not for routine ailments.
Yes, absolutely. That I think.
So to all our viewers, we're out of time, but I do recommend that you read Mr. Balachandran's excellent book. He's a person who's seen more of the intelligence world go by that certainly I think most people I talk to, and one is one of the living institutions of the Indian intelligence community. I hope you'll be writing and speaking a lot more in the future, sir. The full story of 2611. One of these days we have to bring you back to discuss. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you all for watching Process.